Leaving made us safer. It did not make me regulated. There's a narrative I used to believe, and maybe you do too, that once you leave the hard thing, your nervous system just exhales. That if you get out of the unhealthy marriage, the toxic job, the chaotic environment, that your body will finally calm down. That relief will equal regulation. But that's not always what happens. And when it doesn't happen, you start to question yourself. Why am I still anxious? Why am I still bracing? Why does my mind keep scanning for the next problem when nothing is technically happening? Nothing is happening, and yet your body is still on alert. That's what I want to talk about today. Welcome to The Fan in the Window, interrupting what we inherit. I'm Tressa Bell. This podcast is about trauma, nervous systems, generational patterns, and the complicated, imperfect work of healing. I talk about family systems, caregiving, and what it means to tell the truth about the stories that shaped us. It's about what gets passed down and what we choose to interrupt. Before I go any further, I want to say something clearly about this space. This podcast is not therapy. It is not medical advice. It is not psychological treatment. I am not your therapist. Some episodes include themes related to trauma, including family instability, self-harm threats, and emotional harm. Please listen at your own pace. If anything in this episode brings up strong feelings or memories, please take care of yourself and reach out for support. In the U.S., you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you're outside the United States, you can find international hotlines at findahelpline.com. You don't have to navigate this alone. This space is about awareness, not diagnosis. In the first episode, I talked about inheritance. Not just what we inherit genetically, but what we inherit in our nervous systems. And one of the most important things I learned about that inheritance didn't become clear to me until after I left my marriage. So let me take you back to that time. When I left, it wasn't quiet. It wasn't some calm, empowered moment when everything was neatly packed and emotionally resolved. It was after a big fight, voices raised, emotions charged, everything escalated. And it wasn't just that one moment. There had been a pattern before that. Unpredictable self-harm threats during conflict, moments that felt destabilizing, hard to read, hard to predict. I didn't know what he was capable of, and I didn't want my children growing up inside a household where suicide had become part of the relational dynamic. I didn't want them internalizing that level of instability. So when I left, I wasn't thinking about empowerment. I was thinking about survival. My mind was running through possibilities. What is he going to do next? How is he going to retaliate? Where is he going to show up? Is he watching the house? Is this really over? Or is this just the beginning of something else? It wasn't that I jumped at every noise. It was that my brain never stopped running scenarios. Constantly scanning, constantly anticipating, preparing for the next move. We were physically out of the environment, but internally, I was still in survival mode. I didn't leave from calm clarity. I left from activation. And activation doesn't just shut off because your address changes. What I didn't understand at the time is that my nervous system wasn't just anxious. It was cycling between reacting and dissociating. And dysregulation doesn't look the same for everyone. Some people react. They become irritable, short-tempered, emotionally explosive. Small things feel enormous. That's fight. Other people dissociate. They go quiet, numb, foggy, detached. They scroll, they avoid, they disappear internally. That's freeze. And a lot of us move between the two. Sometimes I reacted. Small conflicts felt bigger than they were. My tone would get sharper than I intended. I would over-explain, over-defend, over-correct. Other times I disappeared. I avoided conflict. I let things slide that I should have addressed because my system simply couldn't tolerate one more surge. From the outside, that might have looked inconsistent. But from the inside, it was survival. Because when a nervous system has lived in activation long enough, it keeps us using the strategies that helped it survive, even when the environment changes. And this is where I had to learn something that changed everything for me. The difference between safety and regulation. Safety is external. Regulation is internal. You can change your environment and still have a nervous system that has been rehearsing danger for years. The nervous system doesn't respond to logic. It responds to patterns. If your body has learned that certain cues mean danger, raised voices, silence, tension, unpredictability, it wires itself around those patterns. And those patterns don't disappear overnight. There's something trauma researcher Bruce Perry explains in the book, What Happened to You? He says healing doesn't erase the old pathways. Those pathways exist because of what you lived through. Instead, healing works differently. He described it like building a 4-lane highway next to an old dirt road. The old dirt road is still there, but over time, you begin to use the new road more often. Your nervous system is your nervous system. Healing doesn't delete it. Healing builds alternatives, new pathways, new responses, and that takes repetition. So, if you left something hard and you still find yourself reacting sometimes, or dissociating sometimes, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means the new road is still under construction. There's another part in the book, What Happened to You, by Oprah Winfrey and Bruce Perry, that really stayed with me. They talk about how humans have survived trauma for thousands of years. And something that they point out is that our ancestors almost certainly experienced enormous hardship. Loss, violence, scarcity, illness. The kind of stressors we would absolutely call trauma today. But they also lived inside something most of us no longer have. They lived inside regulating communities. They had tribes, extended families, groups of people who lived, worked, and survived together. If someone experienced something painful, they weren't going home to an empty apartment to process it alone. There were people around them constantly, other nervous systems helping stabilize their own. Bruce Perry says something that I think is really important. Regulation happens in relationships. And our ancestors had other built-in ways of regulating that modern life doesn't give us automatically anymore. They had rhythm, drumming, dancing, walking long distances together, singing, chanting, rocking babies, working with their hands, repetitive, rhythmic movement that helped settle the nervous system. They had rituals, ceremonies for grief, ceremonies for loss, ceremonies for transition, structured ways for the community to come together and metabolize painful experiences. And in many cultures, they also used natural plants or herbs in ceremonial contexts that created altered states of consciousness for healing. The point isn't that ancient life was easier. It almost certainly was not. The point is that humans evolved with protective factors built into daily life that helped the nervous system recover from stress. Connection, movement, touch, rhythm, community. Today, many of us are trying to heal our nervous systems in a way that looks very different. We go to therapy for an hour a week. We read books. We think about our trauma. We analyze it. But then we go home and try to regulate alone. Sitting on the couch, thinking harder about it. And the truth is, the brain doesn't regulate primarily through thinking. It regulates through experience, through rhythm, through connection, through safe relationships. In some ways, healing today often means recreating the conditions our nervous systems evolved to expect, but doing it intentionally. Finding people who are safe, moving our bodies, walking with friends, joining communities, allowing our nervous systems to experience rhythm and connection again. Because understanding what happened to us matters, but regulation rarely comes from insight alone. It comes from experience. When I look back, I can see how isolated my nervous system really was. I was working, parenting, holding everything together, but I wasn't supported in a way that helped my body actually settle. There's one moment I still think about. I had been working all day. I came home exhausted. The house was a mess. Noise, dishes, everything felt overwhelming. And something in me snapped. I remember standing there thinking, I cannot do this. And I yelled. I said things that were harsh. My kids were watching me unravel. Later, I apologized, but apologies don't unsay words. And realizing that hurt. Because when you're trying to break generational patterns, moments like that feel like failure. But over time, I learned something important. Repair matters. Not perfection, repair. Healing didn't look dramatic. It wasn't a breakthrough. It looked small. It looked repetitive. Noticing my body before reacting. Pausing before escalation. Recognizing when I was shutting down. And sometimes missing it and repairing after. If you're listening to this, I want to offer you a question. Where in your life is your body still reacting to something that is no longer happening? Just notice it. You don't have to fix it right now. This week, notice your patterns. Are you reacting? Are you shutting down? And see if you can catch just one moment before the reaction fully takes over. Even a second of awareness is part of the work. Before we close, if this feels supportive, you can join me in a short grounding moment. Nothing complicated, just a pause. If you're driving, keep your eyes open, but if it's safe to do so, you may want to close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath in and a longer breath out. Again, inhale, longer exhale. Notice your shoulders. Let them drop. Notice your jaw. Let it soften. Feel your feet wherever they are. Notice 3 things around you: a sound, a temperature, the feeling of the chair beneath you. You don't have to force calm. Just signal to your body, in this moment, I am okay. If you left something hard and your nervous system is still catching up, you are not broken. Your nervous system is loyal. It learned what it needed to learn to keep you alive. Now it just needs gentleness and repetition. Leaving was step 1. Regulation is step 2. And step 2 is slower, but it is possible. Before we close, there's one more piece of this that matters. Because leaving something that was hard doesn't just reveal how your body feels now, it also starts to reveal what once felt normal. And that can be one of the most disorienting parts. Realizing that the intensity, the unpredictability, the way conflict felt wasn't new. It was familiar. So in the next episode, I want to talk about that. About how chaos can feel normal when it's what you grew up around. And what it means to begin to see that clearly. If this resonates with you, this is the work I explore more deeply in my book, The Fan in the Window. How our nervous systems carry what we inherit and how we begin interrupting those patterns for the next generation. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show, leave a review, and share it with someone you know who may need it. That helps more people find it. Thank you for being here. This is The Fan in the Window, interrupting what we inherit. This didn't start with you, but you can interrupt it.